Well, hello. Should we get the... Okay, we're just about to start. We're going to give maybe 1 minute to let everybody in, and then we're going to start as on time as we can. Okay, so should we go? All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is really a privilege, and I just feel so honored to be part of this webinar full of very powerful women. And I think it's a delight just to be able to speak about these topics and just to remind everybody while we're here because we are very intentional and very aware of how important it is to put women at the center of investment in today's world. And we know that the actions that need to be taken so that we can close a little bit the vast gender gap that in investment is more than $1 trillion. It's among the trillions of dollars, is if all of us just keep on having these conversations and keep on asking the hard questions and being as a whole together in this. My name is Leonor Gutierrez, and I'm the director of the Women in Agriculture Initiative for Root Capital. And it's truly an honor just to be here and just to talk a little bit about the journey that Root Capital has had, just putting gender inclusion at the center of its investments, and also how we have just bring partners along the way. Root Capital started this journey in 2012, and since then, we have supported many different women-led and gender-inclusive organizations. Actually, we have a pledge right now. We have a goal of by 2025, have $900 million of investments in gender-inclusive businesses. But there's no way we can do this alone. And I just also want to highlight how our own clients, the ones at the front line of this quest with us. 75% of our clients have implemented either gender inclusive policies or are working tenaciously just to close their gender gaps. And we think that is something that should be celebrated. And now I think that is just right to mention that partnerships are essential to this work. And I will really like to highlight the Walmart Foundation, who's been a partner in this journey since 2017. And in 2021, they launched a grant with us with the specific goal of putting gender inclusion at the center. Through the grant, we were able to provide credit and loans to over 5,000 different smallholder farmers and businesses around Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and also the other big component of the grant was not only to provide these loans and technical assistance to this group of women that are just so high additionality that otherwise would have been impossible to do so. But the other big component of this partnership was how we can bring others with us into this journey of gender inclusion and gender investment. And of course, for us, CSAF was the biggest ally, and definitely an agency and a group like Value for Women who are just being the ally of Root Capital since the very beginning of their journey, always providing technical support, professional advice, and actually being kind of, you know, like I think not only our partners in good, if you like, but really being there to provide that support and that guidance that is needed in this journey. So we found in CSAF a lot of support and a lot of, you know, like interest from the beginning of the, you know, of the creation of CSAF. And right now we had an opportunity of actually do something more concrete with them regarding how we can just bring together this into our plate. So I'm just really happy to be here with you today. And this webinar is going to be about the result of that growth, of that work, and of that partnership, the result of how is that we're working together towards really achieving a gender lens. And I just really want to say thank you to everybody who's here, and hopefully we will learn a lot and we will just gain a lot from the discussion, and we will see that, you know, like, this journey is not easy, and just moving the needle and really closing the gap is a collective effort. So I'm just very happy to be here, and I would just like to introduce Andrea Zinn, who is going to speak to us a little bit about CSAF, and then with Ann Mapte from Value for Women as well. We'll have a little introduction. So thank you. Andrea, you're on.
Thanks so much, Leo. What a wonderful introduction. My name is Andrea Zinn. I'm the director of the Council on Smallholder Agriculture Finance. And if you don't know us, CSAF is an alliance of lending institutions, including Root Capital, Alterfin, Cordate, and Incofin, as well as 16 other lending institutions with a shared commitment to building an inclusive and sustainable financial market for agricultural SMEs. So collectively, we're dispersing about $750 million per year into sustainable agriculture value chains. And as a network, we come together to try to facilitate market growth, promote responsible lending practices, and build an ecosystem for inclusive investment. And CSAF was really founded because there are so many heightened risks and challenges in the agriculture SME sector specifically, and also a very high potential for impact. And that includes reaching gender inclusive and women-led businesses. And as Leo mentioned, in the past 2 years, we've had several activities as part of this engagement with Root Capital, Value for Women, and the support of Walmart Foundation. And that started with trainings at the global level for all of CSAF upper management staff. And that helped the senior leaders of our financial institutions identify how they could incorporate a gender lens into their organization and their overall investment approach. And then we also had regional trainings for investment officers on gender lens investing for pre and post investment. And then the final chapter of this engagement is the one-on-one advisory from Value for Women to 3 CSAF members who will speak about their GLI journeys on the call today. And this one-on-one advisory has really been a learning opportunity for everyone, starting with the 3 investors who are participating, but also for the larger network, and for investors who are not part of CSAF, but just want to have a more, a stronger impact in gender and a better gender lens in their investment approach. So it's a learning opportunity for everyone, and we are very excited to bring this final chapter to fruition and share the findings with everyone today. So thank you to Leo for kicking us off, and I will hand over to Anne from Value for Women to start the conversation.
Great, thanks Leo, and thanks so much Andrea for this welcome, and welcome all of you to this webinar. We had a huge amount of interest, so it's great to see that so many people are excited about this topic and wanted to learn more from our investors that we worked with on this. So first off, I want to just say a quick word on Value for Women, who we are. We're a specialized advisory firm that aims to catalyze women's leadership, participation in business, finance, and investment in emerging markets. And we are a women-led company. We're a diverse team spread across 5 continents. And in agriculture specifically, Value for Women supports investors, ecosystem players, and enterprises to embed gender inclusion in their ways of doing business. And so for over the last 10 years, we've worked closely with many of the leading investors in the agriculture space, including Root Capital, as you heard from Leo, but also Acumen, Alpha Mundi Foundation, but also ecosystem players such as Aceli and CSAF. We work at 2 levels, so our support with investors helps them apply a gender lens to their investment strategy and processes and wraparound services. But we've also provided technical advisory directly to SMEs or enterprises within investors' portfolios, so agri-enterprises directly, to also help them expand their opportunities for women suppliers and women employees. Next up, I want to welcome our panelists from 2 out of the 3 investors that we worked with over the course of this engagement. Unfortunately, Sjoerd Malsert from Cordate Investment Management had a last-minute conflict, so could not join us today, and he sends his apologies. But from Incofin, we have on the line Noémie Renier, who is the head of debt for financial institutions, and Seya Gadein, Head of People and Organizations. And from Ultrafin, we have Katerina Giordano, Chief Impact Officer, and Pallavi Hariharan, Environmental and Social Impact Manager. And so we're going to hear from each of them today through a moderated conversation, but then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So please do keep your questions in mind, put them in the chat, and we'll be sure to get to them. So I'm going to kick us off. So to start off the discussion, the first question that I wanted to pose to our panelists was to understand a little bit more, what was the spark that set them off on their GLI journeys? When we've worked with investors to help them adopt a gender lens investing practices, one of the things that we typically find is that there's really no one-size-fits-all approach to doing this work. Each investor comes with kind of their own entry point, their own priorities. And so to kick us off, I wanted to hear first from you, Katerina. What was that spark that set you off on your GLI journey, and what did you do?
First of all, thanks to all, and thank you, Anne and CSAF. That was the spark. So how do you start the journey? Actually, it was a big journey. We started in 2021, and we decided that we were not satisfied with the way we were showing and demonstrating and measuring our impact. We call ourselves impact investor. Impact is a very important word. So I think we need to be bold about it. And that's how we start our journey in 2021 to revamp. We started the process of revamping completely our impact management system. In 2022, we took the first step, which is creating knowledge, really. So in order to set any kind of objective, you need first to understand. So we start working on our due diligence and data collection and information tool and environment. And that's when the spark came, which is the opportunity offered by CSAF and together with the Value for Women. Ultrafin has always been working, has always looked at gender, but more from an outreach perspective. And at that point in time, we were working on this tool. So I said, that's a perfect timing, because that's it's a perfect opportunity to embed it in our formally embed it in our strategy and formally embedding it in our due diligence tool, which is the very first step in order to say anything about gender. First, understand what you do, and that's what we did. So now it's part of our tool. We develop a strategy together with Anne and Natia and the team of Ultrafin, and the journey just started in the sense that we started implementing the new tool in December 2022. So now we're collecting data. We're at 1/3 of our partners. So we hopefully be able to understand a bit better where we stand from a gender point of view, and which means both our partners are women-led, are women-focused, what's the level of diversity and equity within the organization. So I'd say that it was an existing ongoing process and the perfect time and a perfect opportunity, which made it for us a success already, I would say, because starting is already a success.
I love that. Thank you. Starting is already a success. And over to you, Noemi. What was the spark that set Incofin off on this path?
Yeah. Thank you, Anne. So, you know, Incofin as an impact fund manager has been invested for over 20 years in financial inclusion and maybe a decade in agriculture finance. Gender inclusion has always been at the heart of our activity, including tracking of indicators that we have been doing. But over the last years, we have seen mushrooming initiative around also, you know, 2X and more funds also claiming being 2X. So we did conduct also our 2X assessment, whether we were complying, and we embraced the movement together, but we realized it was not enough, actually, that many of our funds, without having this gender intention, could be compliant. So I think that was a bit of a spark to say, okay, how can we raise the bar and challenging ourselves, also having a hard look in the mirror, it's good to go to an institution and say you need to have at least X% of a female board member, but first look yourself. And so we were very grateful to have this opportunity to partner actually with CSAF and Value for Women in order to diagnose, ourselves. Where are the gap within Incofin, and so how can we move forward? And so I think that was a bit the spark, asking ourselves how can we raise the bar. Many of our investees are very gender forward, but we need to be able to fine tune the way we assess that gender forwardness in a more granular way, and train our team in that respect.
That's great, and that actually offers a wonderful transition to the next question, which is what does the how look like? So let's get really concrete for our audience here about some of the actions that both of you took. So maybe we'll start with you, Alterfin and Pallavi. Let's hear from you. What sort of concretely was the work? What did it entail working on your due diligence tools? Could you summarize briefly what that looked like, and also sort of share with the audience what changes you made to embed gender at the due diligence stage?
Thank you, Anne. I think it's always at least in my perspective, the more tricky part to operationalize ambitions, while also being practical and understanding how exactly we want to assess them. So part of our environmental and social assessment is rooted in having a set of qualitative and quantitative indicators, which then give us an output on specific aspects on social and environmental performance. So this was really an opportune moment for us. We could put together also an output that was directly linked to gender, and that came from qualitative indicators, which I think is in a way a little bit harder than outreach and quantitative indicators, because what does it really mean? There's a lot of subjectivity when you make that assessment. You know, what kind of services is the partner providing to its end client, how inclusive they are, and to what extent they accommodate, you know, the needs of women. And I think what was really interesting working together on this was the strong focus on equity. So I think not just giving everybody the same thing. I think oftentimes we mistake that, okay, I'm giving the same service to men and women without any discrimination, and voila, I reached my goal. You know, that's good. But I think what was really interesting was to understand that, you know, sometimes men and women may not have the same needs, and to actually reward institutions that recognize this and allow for this, you know, special instruments to be in place that will help women flourish in the sector, because as we know, in the case of agriculture, it's still not very inclusive. So in qualitative indicators, for example, certain services or certain type of products that investees provide to their end clients, they can only get the highest score if this particular indicator is gender inclusive. So that's kind of how we approached our qualitative assessment. And then, of course, for quantitative assessment, where we were looking at outreach at the partner level and also at their end clients, we took a very ambitious approach that was in line with the strategy that we designed, and of course, allowing for the higher scores to appear only when institutions were truly inclusive and had a good balance. And together, these factors allow us to now have a specific gender-related output and a gender-related score, which then is presented in our own internal investment committee, and is taken together with the entire environmental and social analysis and used for decision making. At the current stage, we are collecting data to see what is a good benchmark. You know, is 70% a good score? Is 60% a good score? As Katerina mentioned earlier, where do we stand? And where are the gaps? Where are they appearing? Are they appearing more in terms of services or internal HR? And this would then allow us to kind of design our intervention in a way that is coherent and directly responding to where we see these recurrent gaps. So concretely, this is how we've operationalized it now. Of course, we want to use this information and go much further. But start is a success. I'll stick to that. And yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Pallavi, for sharing. I guess as a follow-up question, what comes to mind is whenever changes are made to the investment process or the tools, there's always a risk of internal pushback, especially from investment teams who now perhaps have to learn new tools, learn new things, how to apply these tools. So Katerina, how did you manage this, and what feedback have you received so far on the updated tools as you've been rolling them out over new due diligences?
It's particularly difficult when you're very ambitious, and we are very ambitious in a positive way. So indeed, we came up with this cumbersome tool, at least at the look of it. Because we expected that by usage and creating knowledge, it would become more swift in use. But clearly, at the beginning, there is a barrier in the sense that investment managers need to learn how to use the tool and need to dedicate much more time during the due diligence. So while I think gender equity has always been at the core of our activity in the art of all the stuff across Alterfin, when you see such a tool, you always receive pushbacks, or at least fears, and say, how we're gonna do that? It means we're gonna stay at 2 days at each partner. And so there were lots of fears, I would say. And I think how we approach it, so the end of the consultancy with Value from Women was a training. So we culminated in a training. And just to remind again why it's so important from a development point of view, and that's what animates everybody at Alterfin. So see really the benefit of it and what it takes. And we coach them a lot. Pallavi did at each single due diligence. And then I was very surprised because the same people came to me, but it's going to take another 3 days. It's going to be tough. They came to me telling me like, thank you. It was amazing because I've been with this partner for 10 years and I didn't know certain things. I discovered a wall of new things. I discovered that a coffee cooperative in Honduras does thousands of things for gender equity, super progressive. Or we observe that there are weaknesses there, and the partners themselves are happy because they're partners that are mission aligned. So if you point out a weakness, they're happy because they can engage, they can understand, they can improve. So notwithstanding still some pushback because it's still it's workload, I think we got the buy-in through the usage because it provides knowledge for the investment manager and for the partners.
That's fantastic. And Noemi, I was seeing you emphatically nodding your head as Katerina was speaking, and I would love to hear if what Katerina was sharing resonates with your own experience as well.
Oh, yes, certainly. I think in general, when you roll out new tools, there is always a transition or a change that you need to manage with the investment team. But I think it's also what it's important is that it's raising awareness. It's opening the eyes of the team on some aspect that they haven't seen in the past. So we have seen several investment managers coming to us, yeah, but they are serving only women, but how? And asking why, maybe 5 times, why there is not enough women in the client in some other case, trying to really scratch the surface. As Katerina highlighted, it's only by going on the field and engaging with the client and asking more, trying to understand their realities, to really understand if the product that is provided is actually meeting the need of the woman. And you can learn so much more from even clients that you have in your portfolio since 10 years by asking the right question. So I joined Katerina on this resistance, but it's very rewarding for the investment team as well.
That's fantastic. So I want to change direction slightly and turn the conversation inwards to look at internally focused GLI actions. So Incofin did spend some time last year building internal engagement and buy-in for gender lens actions, and also dedicated time to implementing some actions to build a more inclusive workplace for all staff. So Saya, could you talk to us a bit more about why this was a focus for you and what were some of the outcomes of that work?
Sure. Not sure if I'm on mute, no? All right, perfect, great. Thank you, and indeed, we did invest quite a lot to our internal processes as well. And I've been now at Incofin for 3 years, and in the beginning of these 3 years, it was around early 21. We decided to establish a new, quite ambitious HR strategy together with the management. And it was quite not so traditional, I would say. And why I'm saying that, it was also having quite ambitious goals. So we wanted to really, we have the KPIs and certain measures which are in the processes, which are so-called traditional HR processes, but we really wanted to also include the diversity goals. Good example is that we decided to put a KPI that's at Incofin globally. By the end of 24, so beginning of 25, which is, by the way, almost around the corner, we will have a full gender equality, full gender balance in all organization levels. And also that we have immediate gender equal pay structure. So we decided to put certain very ambitious targets to our HR strategy. And we also communicated that to our employees. And why that is important is actually very much linked to what was just recently shared. So indeed, we have a processes, investment processes, but at Incofin, we decided that in order to become a reliable role model to our investees, we really need to do that. We need to live and breathe these principles as a company as well. And then this means that our own staff also understand that these principles are backed up by the top management. They're fully understood, they're understanding the purpose of these goals and why these are important. And by doing that, indeed, they can also implement better these processes and tools to our investees and in emerging markets, because they are also very much committed and supported by the Incofin top management. So it helps indeed to push back that change resistance as well. So we started from there. And regarding the engagement survey, indeed, Incofin did run an annual engagement survey for several years. The results were always very positive. But when the pandemic hit and we started to collaborate with Value for Women, we realized that maybe we need to have a little bit different kind of engagement survey. And together with the Value for Women team, we did redesign the engagement survey globally. We did not only redesign, but we also got a lot of support in analyzing the results. And for the first time, we also analyzed those results based on the gender. And so it was very, very revealing to us, to be honest, and somewhat surprising as well. We thought that there are certain elements to be developed, but what was surprising was that there were several aspects that, especially in our regional offices, when it comes to male and female employees, people really perceive and experience certain elements what are related to our current guidelines, procedures, policies, benefits, etc., very differently. That might be due to pandemic, of course, because we did that during the pandemic, but also many other aspects as well. And so what we decided to do is that we, based on the results, we immediately implemented certain actions. So those are kind of quick wins. It was reinforcing certain policies, implementing some new guidelines immediately together with the leadership team and management board of Incofin. But then we decided that, okay, let's tackle these most critical topics, which are really important, where we see that male and female employees are perceiving these things differently. And it clearly seems to affect to their retention, motivation, and engagement, and creating some challenges to their work-life balance. And how we did that is that we suggested 3 working groups to be established at Incofin. Those are global working groups, not led by directors, they are led by employees. So at the moment, we have 15% of our employees working in these 3 working groups. So the first working group what we established was related to health and family-friendly benefits. So this means this basis of this was that especially in regional offices, we realize that our female employees, they do value different motivational packages, benefit packages, and most importantly, there should be a possibility to choose your benefits a little bit better. So we have been now together with this working group in all Incofin 5 regions, evaluating, for example, how flexible we can be with the pension arrangements, medical plans for the families, what we can put in place when it comes to work-life balance, all kind of things. There are many other aspects that we have been reviewing, and cafeteria plans, etc. So this has been very beneficial. And to be very honest, we were not looking for adding costs. The team understands that you can do a lot without actually, you can have very innovative solutions without adding any cost. When you have a opportunity for the employees to choose what fits best for them and what they need in order to manage their work life and indeed what motivates them the best. The second group what we established was related to working time model. So Incofin, like many other companies as well, has a hybrid working model, which means that we have basically asked our employees a couple of years back already to spend 2 to 3 days per week in the office, and the rest they can then work from home. And then some teams are working more or less according to that. But when we did this engagement survey, it was quite surprising, and thank you for Value for Women team to pointing this out, that this working model, which we thought that is the most flexible and kind of like very engaging, and it gives a lot of freedom to all of our employees, was not actually perceived the same way by male and female employees. Our female employees have said that, well, I do have, and we are talking about emerging markets, the regional offices especially. They said that, well, we do have childcare responsibilities. We are commuting. The commuting can be very extensive. It might take hours, and then they have also other caregiving responsibilities. And then these 2 to 3 days per week is actually not perceived very motivating, and sometimes not even feasible. For male employees, it was clearly different. So we really took a deep dive on these results. We reviewed the regional results and indeed established a working group on that. So now our working group from all the regions has been working on that, and we are trying to find much more flexible model which would indeed accommodate the needs of female and male employees, giving that necessary flexibility. For example, if you have little kids at home, or you need to take care of the grandparents, or also in case if you want to be 5 days in the office. So again, it is not adding cost, it's adding more flexibility and choices for the employees. So this was the second working group, and then the third working group was related to office environments, office space working group, space working group. So based on the survey, we also realized indeed that our current office setup is not maybe the most engaging, not maybe the most motivating in this new era of post-pandemic. And also indeed, we got this feedback from our male and female employees. Again, male employees in that engagement survey were more positive, and they want to spend more time in the office. They didn't have that much complaints about the office setup, but we decided to really deep dive again, and we realized that especially a couple of offices, we really need to redesign not only the office setup, but really make sure that it really is a safe and supporting environment for all the employees, whether they are disabled, whether they have small kids, if they are lactating parents, that there would be a safe space to do that lactating. Then we have a quiet working spaces. There are different kind of collaboration spaces when people are less and less in the office and working more and more remotely. But this has been very intense and very enlightening experience to really start to think about very innovative ways that what the office setup, what is the working time model, what are the benefits, and all these kind of support each other. So now we are in the end of our project, and somewhere in August, we will then present our results to the leadership team, and the implementation of our actions will then happen immediately after that, so during the year 23 and 24. So we also did set already KPIs, what the success would look like. And that has been quite innovative. And like I said, what I like the most is that the employees are now very enthusiastic. So they are leading these subgroups. I'm of course coordinating a little bit, but it allows our employees not only participate, but it gives the feeling that, by the way, my voice is heard, and they did understand that what is the challenge, and they are willing to do something for this. So this has been our journey, and we are extremely grateful for Value for Women to push us on this and really redesign this survey, so that because it is not only that we want to see the results, we want to have a questions that we can actually and do something when we have the results, so that we can draw some actions. And so the team of Value for Women were able to really guide to that direction. And in the end, indeed, we also had a very good interpretation of the results and futures, the kind of like following suggestions what to do. So again, many thanks, and the Value for Women team for guiding us on this. And I can't wait that we really get to the implementation phase.
Thanks so much, Thea, for sharing. And I feel like this is such a wonderful example to highlight, and we do highlight this in our case study. We'll share the link in the chat of a global institution with staff dispersed across the globe, grappling with this challenge of what does post-pandemic work look like. And I think probably your comments there resonate with a lot of people in the virtual room. You know, the pandemic created this massive shift in how we all think about work and where to work from. And so it's been really fascinating to see in real time how Incofin has tried to figure out, okay, what works best given how we work, where we work. And so can't wait to see sort of the results of some of these working groups as they come out. I want
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add maybe that we also not only that we implement this to our current processes, but it will be also something what we want to tell when we are recruiting new colleagues, new team members, to make sure that we also attract the female employees and employees from the underprivileged groups, so that they feel that, you know what, Incofin is a safe space to work. They do have actually certain arrangements in place that it is really an inclusive workplace. So for us, it has really been much more than an engagement survey. It was kind of like awareness call. It was the support to mobilize our team members to work together and create these actions together with the management. But it went much further than that.
Yeah, that's great. Want to leave some time for Q&A. So everyone, please do pop your questions in the chat. And while we're waiting for questions to come through, I want to wrap up the discussion by asking each of you if you could summarize in one sentence a key takeaway so far from the work that you've each been doing on GLI. So for example, my key takeaway could be, don't underestimate the importance of training your teams on gender. And hopefully that's not one of your key takeaways and I've stolen it from you. But maybe we'll start with you, Katarina. What sort of one key takeaway from this work so far? You're on mute.
I think you, it's more on the process when you, I think you should embark on the journey when you're ready, and ready it means that it means in terms of you have the resources buy-in and you have to be also practical and set objectives which are at your size, and that's I think my key takeaway. But yeah, you need to start.
Just get started. I like it. Pallavi, what about you?
I think for me, it's knowledge building, and oftentimes, at least in my experience, I observe when we talk about gender, it's a room that's almost full of women, and I think that part of the whole buy-in for us was also being able to discuss actual cases and look at studies that have been done that go beyond just saying, of course, it is the right thing to do, but sometimes that extra incentive of saying there is a strong business case is a great motivator for the skeptics at the back of the room. So I would say that that kind of powerful knowledge building and information is something that I think is very important, and I think we also observed it in the case of Ultrafin, that it helped create this change in mindset. So I think that was the biggest learning for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And Noémie, how about you? What's a key takeaway?
I had kind of a 3 lesson learned that we try to pack into one sentence. And I think first, what gets measured get done. That's a starting point to understand, and we have seen that with an employee survey that allows to assess where are the gap and where we need to work and set up working group, as Saya mentioned. But that's a starting point. You need to really build awareness, not only internally, but also externally. And that's also where Value for Women helped us to train supervisory board, investment committees, investment teams. So at all levels of the investment process, to break the gender norms. And it's not because you believe you understand the gender norms in one country, one region. You should remain in this learning mode in every geographies that you explore to understand the local context. And that can be achieved only by implementing this gender lens across all levels of the investment process. That means having the right question at the due diligence stage, asking the why on why on why on why, and at least 5 times why there is not enough women or why the products addressing women need. Having the right KPI and target at the fund level and investment level. And that's only you need to equip your investment managers with the right tools, right questionnaire to engage with our clients. Try to pack in one
That's
sentence.
fantastic. Extremely comprehensive key takeaways. And Saya, what about you? What's a key takeaway from this journey that you're on?
Like Noémie, indeed, I do have few, but I will try to put it quite. And of course, as an HR person, I do have maybe a bit different view. But I think that key takeaway in general was that how important the top management commitment is. So this whole thing for Value for Women Corporation, it was discussed with the management also, and we agreed that, okay, this is important for us. So it was a commitment, not only from the investment, it's not commitment from HR, it was something which was commitment from the company top management. And I really believe that the company can only progress in these things when the top leadership is really committed to the internal gender equality. Because like I said earlier, it sets the tone for the rest of the organization and all the processes. So and then I'm really grateful that indeed we did roll out those trainings as well to create this awareness, like Noémie was referring. So I think that is the key takeaway. If you want to have changes happen in operative processes, operational level, you need to start from the top, because that will enable that you will have resources, you will be backed up, you will be supported when you need to have new tools. When you want to go to communication, it is also the management who is supporting your communication. So my key takeaway would be there, and I think that would be my advice, and learning as well for myself.
That's wonderful. Thank you all for being so transparent and sharing so openly with us about your gender lens investing journeys. I think for me, what I'm hearing as key takeaways is the important part is just to get started. As Katarina said, top leadership buy-in is very, very important. It helps sets the tone, and knowledge building, and especially sort of highlighting both sort of the impact case and the ethical case, but also the business case to help shift mindsets amongst those skeptics, also kind of helps build momentum and move things forward. And then finally, sort of making sure that you're thinking about all the different levels within the organization where a gender lens can and should be embedded to make it really kind of a comprehensive approach, not just siloed within one part of the organization. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Q&A. So I see a couple of hands raised and also one question from Claudia. Maybe we'll start with the raised hand. So Leo, why don't you kick us off with your question?
Thank you. I'm just, like, I really just need to get it out. I just want to say that I feel thrilled, like the amount of passion and the amount of commitment and hard work that is obvious that comes from all the work that has been done and that has been, shared in this webinar. I just have to say that it's just very inspiring. And I think that acknowledging that it doesn't matter how hard is the effort and how much we commit to it, our efforts are really a drop in the ocean unless we're changing the system and doing it together, because the gap is so huge. And I feel that this morning, I just want to say that what you're doing is the hard work and it's what is needed to be done. And I think that, I don't know, I just feel so proud. I feel so proud for being a woman right now. I feel that yeah, the world is going to change because of this kind of work and this kind of commitment of asking the right question, being resilient. You have spoken about such wonderful leadership, and feel that we all gain having you as leaders of this trend. So that's from me, and just to say it also from on behalf of Root Capital, I think that's the kind of system that we all need to change together, and I'm very happy to be a part of this. And I think that my question will be acknowledging that we're all part of CSAF, and that now we are like 4 of us making a lot of noise regarding gender inclusion. Why you guys think can come next? Like, is there anything else? And maybe taking advantage that Andrea has her hand up as well. I'm just wondering what comes next and how we can keep on building this community of smallholder farmer lovers to really work towards gender inclusion together. So that's my question. Thank you.
Maybe I'll
Thanks,
pass that
Leo.
question to Katarina and Noemi.
I forgot to say something, actually. We embarked this journey, and I think the role of Root Capital was instrumental. And as you said, you started this journey a long time ago. And I think the beauty of Root Capital that you shared with us in full transparency, everything. And I think that's what we should do. It's not something like the intellectual property, it's my tool. And no, we are there to work together to achieve the objective of gender equity, to reduce poverty. So we need to share. And that was instrumental for us, Leonard. It inspired us, and it helped us understanding what was the right way, was very practical. So I think as simple as sharing more in detail our experience with our peers within CSAF, it would be great. It makes you understand that it's feasible. It gives you ideas. It gives you inspiration. So definitely that's one of the way we should go through.
And Noemi?
What to do next? 2 things. Embark men in the debate. I think we missed half of the equation here. I'm still very disappointed participating in so many panels on gender inclusion where there are only female in the room. And that's really bothering me. I think at Incofin, we have tried to embed men in the debate, in the discussion. And so in our working group, we include both gender. So that's one aspect, but also I think we need to continue. Our investment team is, as we like to call it, agent of change, by engaging, asking the provocative question, the uncomfortable questions to our clients. I think they can contribute to change in mentalities and to shake the status quo for more gender inclusion.
And Andrea, I know you wanted to also maybe answer part of Leo's question from the CSAF perspective.
Yeah, it's a great question. And one thing I've been thinking about as a key learning for CSAF after this engagement is that, when it comes to impact, progress with one investor makes everyone stronger, because impact is a pre-competitive goal. And what I really love about this partnership is that instead of 1 or 2 or 3 investors leading on gender inclusion in a silo, we can work across the full group to move CSAF members and the larger impact investing sector forward on gender inclusion. And the more investors lead forward on gender, the more the standard will also move forward and change, and then everyone else will follow.
I think if I can react to that, I think the importance of developing ambitious but relevant standard is also extremely important also for our client, so that they don't report on 50 Excel sheet per investor that are all different. I think we can contribute to alleviate that reporting burden to our client as well by joining our efforts.
Yeah, that's a really important point. I want to get to some of the questions that are in the chat. So let's start with Claudia's. And she's got a question for you, Saya. Wanted to ask what you consider a successful gender inclusive culture or workspace, and what are some of the best metrics for tracking good, or she uses the word extraordinary, so extraordinary outcomes when it comes to gender inclusion in the workplace.
So what I do consider as a successful gender inclusive culture or workspace, what are the best metrics to extraordinary outcome? Well, ideally, of course, first of all, I would like to say that I think we don't only think about, when we talk about inclusivity, it's not only gender, it is much more. It is the gender, it is the seniority, it is the age, it's the conceptual diversity, it's many other aspects. So I think when we actually do look at all of these metrics. And ideally, of course, the inclusive culture is that where everyone can be themselves and accept it, and also raise questions, challenge, even challenging questions, and challenge the anyone in the room without being judged. So it is a safe space to work. So that's what I would consider as a successful inclusive culture. That not focusing only on one niche, and I do understand that gender is one of the most pressing elements, but and especially when we talk about the emerging market, it is really critical. But there are also several interconnected elements, and we shouldn't forget that, and that's why we have, I think, a little bit wider concept on that, indeed. So, and when it comes to metrics, of course, we want to continue these surveys, so to hear the voice of the employees, and that is very important, that how safe they see that, do they feel comfortable addressing the opinions, asking questions, do they feel safe to admit that, for example, I made a mistake. So creating this speaking up culture, creating this safe, psychologically safe environment. Now, of course, there are some hard metrics as well. So we do follow certain gender-related metrics related, for example, gender, age, seniority, nationality, etc. But we have made conscious decision to not to measure certain elements because, for example, religion, race, on that sense. So we do measure nationality, but not race, and certain other elements because we feel that those are not relevant for the work, to be honest. Now, when it comes to other metrics, of course, performance. So the company performance in the end, that is the best measurement. So we believe, I think, that the more inclusive we are, the best we are performing. But there are also other elements as well. So we want to, of course, see that, okay, what is our retention rate? And then we, for example, if the turnover rate would be increasing, we would then, of course, put much more emphasis on exit interviews and try to dive in that what were really the reasons why the person was leaving. Was that related to culture? Was there related elements related to inclusivity, for example? And in case that would be the reason to go, then we would take immediate action. So that's all. It's a long answer and it's not an easy answer, but I believe that every company needs to think about that. What is their strategy? I think this is the answer from Incopin's side. So to summarize it, successful culture at Incopin would be that all of our employees would feel safe and comfortable to be themselves, to challenge, to speak up. Even admit that if in case they do feel that they have made a mistake or they're unsure about something, And then we back up with the data and we take immediate actions in case there would be harassment, in case there would be any other challenges that the people see and feel that their voice is heard. We take immediate actions. And indeed, we do have those measures on a monthly basis, and we report those on a quarterly basis to the management, and then we do have HR annual report as well.
That's great, and I love how you kind of tie sort of overall business performance to taking some of these actions and building a more inclusive workplace. I think that's really, really important, is to view these actions as a way to also just, increase and improve overall business performance. We only have a couple of minutes. We had a couple of questions around kind of what the impact or how businesses with strong gender impact perform against those invested in that don't have perhaps a gender lens. And Andrea has helpfully shared Root Capital's analysis, portfolio analysis of 10 years of transactions, demonstrating the business case and how women-led businesses and gender-inclusive businesses perform compared to businesses that are not women-led or gender-inclusive. So really, really important piece of research that adds so much to this conversation and to the overall sector. But maybe we can finish with this question from Bronwyn, who's asking if any of you could share an example of a challenge you faced where a partner or an investee really dug their heels in and how you overcame that challenge. So maybe thinking about either a portfolio company or even perhaps internal kind of stakeholders that were pushing back, and how did you address this? Noémie, maybe we'll start with you.
Try to be short. I start addressing that question in the chat box. I think first is to take a humble approach. We see that we engage with them and we don't want to be exclusive. We try to accompany them on their gender journey, if you want to call it. So trying to understand their reality, what are the barriers? I think that's important. Going on the field, understanding these barriers on the field. Is that a safety issue? There may be several barriers that need to be overcome, and so we need to understand the local norm context. So that's maybe with a partner. So I don't have an example of tell you we rejected that client that because they really didn't want it to address gender inclusion. And internally, it's true that investment committee, we had sometimes challenging, we had to challenge investment managers. Typically, well, I'm more on the financial inclusion aspect, but why you have only woman client, but are you really addressing the needs of this woman? I see that it still doesn't always spark the right reaction or the right question. So by asking this question, and also we have added a gender specialist in our investment committee as well to help address this question and ask the right question, the uncomfortable question.
That's fantastic. Really actionable points there to share with the audience. And Katarina, do you have anything to add to what Noémie mentioned?
I think the overall idea is through the new due diligence tool that will build knowledge. So we'll identify clearly which are the gaps in our organization. And one of the leads we have to build programs around the needs. So once we have a clear idea, okay, there is a clear need on gender inclusiveness at workplace, or there's a clear need of building specific loan products for women. And then beside doing ad hoc, having broader program which we can offer to all our partners. That's one of the lead. As Noémie said, we are a debt investor, we're partners, so we're not patronizing anybody, so we work together. So, and I think till now we never had such a problem, but we identify problems together, we agree how to tackle them, and we try to support them through our financial support and now through technical assistance.
Yeah, definitely. In our experience, we find that post-investment engagement support is also really helps catalyze action within portfolio companies. Noémie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, actually, so the fund that we manage don't have a pure gender intention. So we will not exclude institution only because of they do not meet certain gender KPI. So I think raising the ambition also in setting much more ambitious gender target at the fund setup can also help to achieve greater progress. So acting as agent of change, I think that when we have a multidimensional impact fund is the first entry point, and then building much more intention at the fund level, I think with the stakeholders, with LPs, investors is critical.
And maybe just to add, giving a practical example, the approach we built internally. So we decided to have a women-led organization, and whereby we'll focus on strengthening the organization overall. Then women focus, so with the products, and then organizations that do not, they're neither women-led nor women-focused, but on which with whom we can work harder to improve gender inclusiveness and equity at workspace, or develop specific products if they need. So I think it's important to be flexible and open to really push forward everybody.
That's a great note to end on, and we are a little bit over, so we do want to wrap it up. But thank you again to our 4 panelists for sharing so openly and for taking the time. And I'm going to hand it over to Andrea from CSAF to close us out.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. I just want to thank Value for Women and Alterfeed, Ecofeed, Root Capital, and Coordate for making this engagement possible. And I'll just remind everyone that you can download the case study on the website of CSAF as well as Value for Women, and maybe everyone else has already put it on their website as well. And I'm really impressed that there's 40 people staying past the hour to hear our final comments. So just thanks everyone to the audience for being so engaged and asking great questions. And we're looking forward to moving this work forward as a CSAF collective and individually in our own investment institutions.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.